Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector. Do not become a video game crash out, or even a Pokemon trading card crash out, or any kind of crash out for these toys, these trading cards, and these video games that a lot of people are treating as some type of rare gold or some type of investment. I remember there was a time when, and I think it's still happening, but I remember during the fever pitch of reselling retro video games and hunting retro video games, there would be small scuffles that would break out between resellers. There would be small scuffles that would break out between buyers. If a number of retro game buyers were at like a thrift store or something like that. Even I had my own small encounters with hostile shoppers who literally tried to take video games out of my hand. I shared one experience on the channel where I was at a thrift store, and the employee put a stack of games on the counter, and the dude literally pushed a crowd of people out of his way, reached over three more individuals, and grabbed half the stack. And had I not grabbed the bottom half of that stack, he would have tried to grab the bottom half as well. And when he saw me grab the bottom half of that stack, he looked at me like he was about to do something. But I knew he knew better. Now, I'm not the toughest guy in the world, but I just knew in that moment he knew better, right? And that was just one interaction, right? And that's a big part of the reason, to be honest with you, a big part of the reason why for a long time I avoided flea markets, thrift stores, things like that, because I honestly did not want to risk running into someone that was going to pull me out of my character or put me in a position where I have to defend myself or anything like that. I really did not feel like getting into an altercation over video games was worth it. But whenever money gets involved, or whenever people think that there's a substantial or significant amount of money to be made, you get the crash outs. The crash outs start to emerge, and they start to crash out over these items. And I think now, because of how popularized Pokemon trading cards are, you see how many people are literally crashing out. And if you're not familiar with the term crash out means, it means they're willing to get violent. They're willing to get belligerent. They're willing to throw their safety out of the window. They're willing to throw common sense out of the window, all in an effort to obtain these items that they think will somehow make them money on the resale market. Or if they find a specific card and they grade it, it will somehow pay for their college tuition. Newsflash, especially when it comes to these trading cards. Trading cards are far worse than video games, in my opinion. In my opinion, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when you go game hunting and you decide to buy a video game, you know the game you're buying. And 9 times out of 10, unless you're absolutely clueless, you know whether or not the game you're buying is worth anything or not. And so in most cases, you're making an informed decision when you're buying the game. Like I know Champions Returns to Arms is maybe a $35 game. It's not going to be life changing, but I know what I'm getting. It's a good game. It's right there on the cover. Wind Waker might be worth a little bit more. Wind Waker might be worth 60, maybe $75. But I know what I'm getting with it. When it comes to these Pokemon card packs, people don't know what they're getting. And the fact that they don't know what's underneath the plastic wrapper, I think increases the amount of just stupidity and how a lot of people go about picking up these items, which is why you're seeing on social media grown men fighting over these cards. You're seeing grown men acting like children in front of their children over a children's trading card game, all in the name of trying to make a quick buck. And I've said this so many times before on my channel. Get a job, right? If all the energy that people put into getting these cards, if they put that same energy into building a skill, learning a trade, getting promoted at their job, getting a higher paying job, maybe they wouldn't have to fight so much online, right? Maybe Pokemon cards wouldn't be the priority. Maybe they'd be looking at other things. And I just hate to see people crashing out over this stuff because eventually it's going to get more and more violent. It's going to get more and more. I remember the days, like, for those of you who remember when Black Friday actually meant something, like Black Friday is nothing close to what it used to be. In the 90s and early 2000s, Black Friday was like a thing. Like, it was like an event. It was like you got dressed at 11:30 at night so that you can get to the mall at midnight for all the doorbusters and the sales and things. And I remember for a couple years doing that just for the fun of it. And I remember being in a mall on Black Friday morning at 12 a.m., midnight, and you would have thought it was a regular day, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. That's how many people were in the mall shopping. But I remember also along with that came a lot of death. I remember people getting trampled, you know, because the mob of people trying to get through the doors to pick up their games and pick up their Christmas gifts and take advantage of the Black Friday deals. I remember people literally getting stomped to death. And you know, I'm glad that we don't have those days anymore. Not because like people like companies or not because companies aren't trying to get people in the mall, but the Black Friday deals just don't make sense anymore. There are really no sales like how they used to be. But you used to see people crash out, and when greed comes into play, anybody can become a crash out. Your 75-year-old grandma will start to crash out. Your 49-year-old father will, a 28-year-old dude will, a 17-year-old girl will. It doesn't matter who it is. When greed and the fear of missing out and the dopamine and all of these things start to mix together, it creates just very unbecoming behavior. And you really start to see people at their worst. So thankfully, I'm not involved in the Pokemon stuff. I mean, I have picked up a considerable amount of Pokemon games over the past few days, and we're going to talk about during the end of month wrap up. I am going to do a video to wrap up everything that I picked up in the month of May, because May was a significant month, like a lot of bangers this month. But all that being said, don't crash out for video games. Don't fight over them. They're not worth it. If you really want them, see if you can get a couple extra hours at your job. See if you can work some overtime. See if you can pick up a gig. Do anything but start fighting people over this stuff. And again, not just video games, but Pokemon cards, any of those things. It's just not worth it. Don't be a crash out. Not for video games. The only thing you should be crashing out for is for your family, your loved ones, and maybe some of your friends. But that does it for me. It's the Y2K. Hopefully you're having a great Memorial Day weekend, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.